In a warm and peaceful village nestled between green hills, where birds sang at dawn and neighbors shared stories under mango trees, there lived a young girl named Abeni. Her presence was like a calm breeze, gentle, warm, and full of light. The villagers often admired her clay pots, which she shaped with such delicate skill that even travelers from nearby towns would buy them to decorate their homes. Abeni was loved for her kindness, her gentle voice, and her way of seeing beauty, even in ordinary things. But Abeni's life had not been easy. Her mother had passed away when Abeni was just a baby, and her father, a respected hunter, remarried a woman named Mama Joka. At first, Mama Joka appeared to be a reasonable woman, but after Abeni's father died from a snake bite in the forest, her true nature emerged. Mama Joka was a hard woman, made bitter by envy and pride. She had a daughter of her own, Ifunanya, who lacked Abeni's grace and charm. Ifunanya had no interest in work, spent her days gossiping and applying powder, yet was always dressed in the finest fabrics Mama Joka could afford. Meanwhile, Abeni wore clothes that were patched beyond recognition and slept in the smoke-stained cooking hut behind the main house. Mama Joka treated Abeni not as a daughter, but as a servant. She would wake her before the first rooster crowed to fetch water, sweep the compound, wash the clothes, and grind yam for hours. Even when her hands blistered or her back ached, Abeni did not complain. She smiled when spoken to, listened more than she talked, and helped the elders without being asked. Though her stepmother did all she could to crush her spirit, Abeni's heart remained strong, rooted in kindness, watered by patience, and lit by a quiet hope no one could take away. It began with the sound of whispers, quiet at first, like wind stirring dry leaves, then louder, sweeping through the village like wildfire. A royal emissary was coming. By afternoon, the entire village buzzed with anticipation. Traders abandoned their stalls, children stopped chasing chickens, and even the elders paused their games beneath the big iroko tree. It was said the king's younger brother was searching for a wife, not for himself, but on behalf of a wealthy nobleman from a neighboring kingdom. The man was mysterious, powerful, and ready to take a bride. Mama Joka's eyes lit up with greedy ambition. She saw this as a golden opportunity to push her own daughter, Ifunanya, into royalty. That evening, she scrubbed Ifunanya with hot water and rubbed her skin with fresh palm oil. She adorned her with borrowed beads and tied the finest wrapper she owned around her waist. Ifunanya was instructed to act humble, to bow low, and to pretend she could cook, clean, and serve, skills she had never truly learned. When the emissary arrived, tall and regal in his blue silk robe, the village square fell into silence. Ifunanya stepped forward and began her awkward display of modesty, but the emissary did not even glance at her. Instead, his eyes moved through the crowd and rested on Abeni, who was half hidden behind a tree, trying to avoid attention as she balanced a basket of firewood on her head. He walked directly to her. Villagers turned and gasped. Abeni looked up, startled. The emissary simply said, "The drums chose her." That night, Mama Joka's fury could have burned the roof off their hut. Her voice shook with anger as she dragged Abeni aside. "You will not marry into royalty," she hissed. "You'll marry a cripple, a cursed man who crawls like a worm." Before Abeni could protest, Mama Joka had already sent word to a far-off place, summoning a man named Okechukwu, one the village barely remembered, one they called the Broken One by the river. The wedding was nothing like Abeni had imagined as a child. No drummers came to beat joyful rhythms, no aunties ululated, and no friends painted her hands with dye. She wore a thin, tattered white cloth and walked alone, barefoot, down a dusty path. Only 2 strangers waited with a canoe, sent to deliver her across the river. No one said a word. The journey felt like a silent exile. Mist hovered over the water as the boat glided through the reeds. When they reached the far bank, she saw a lonely hut crouched at the edge of the forest, its roof patched with rusted metal and vines growing up one wall. Okechukwu emerged slowly from the shadows. He leaned heavily on a wooden cane. His right leg was bent unnaturally, dragging behind him. His eyes barely met hers. His voice was quiet and hollow. Still, he welcomed her inside. There was only one chair in the hut, and he offered it to her. He lit a small fire and cooked without speaking. Simple yam and oil. That night, Abeni sat awake listening to the strange sounds of the river. There was a rhythm to the water, like it was trying to tell her something. A name, a memory, a warning, or a promise. Days turned into weeks. Abeni did what she always did. She worked. She patched holes in the hut's roof with palm fronds, planted vegetables outside, and swept the floor till it gleamed. She sang while cooking, sometimes softly humming songs her mother had once taught her. And slowly, Okechukwu changed. He began to talk more. He told her about birds that used to perch on his window, about dreams he had of golden drums and burning skies. He said his injury came from a mistake beneath a jealous moon, but never explained further. Something deep remained hidden, and at night the river kept whispering. Some evenings, Abeni saw glowing lights dancing just above the water, as if spirits lingered nearby, watching, waiting, as though they knew her journey had only just begun. The village square overflowed with people. The drums had fallen silent. All eyes were on the man who had once been thought broken, the man now standing tall beside Abeni, dressed in the royal cloth of the kingdom of Uzoma. His voice carried through the air like a wind that had waited years to be heard. He told the truth, how he had once been a fierce warrior, chosen to inherit power, but had refused a blood sacrifice demanded by his uncle, a priest of dark secrets. His refusal was seen as weakness. The uncle, hungry for power, cursed him. The curse stole his strength, twisted his body, and made the kingdom forget him. He wandered for years, nameless, until he found shelter by the river. No one came near, until Abeni. The elders listened in stunned silence. The villagers exchanged looks of awe and regret. The prince explained that only a woman of pure heart, one who accepted him without knowing his name or future, could break the curse. Abeni had done just that, not with magic, but with kindness, with presence, with love. In the crowd, Mama Joka stood like stone, her lips parted in shock. Ifunanya's face crumpled in bitter disbelief. The same cripple she had mocked now wore gold, and the girl they had cast out was wrapped in honor. Still, Abeni did not gloat. She stepped forward and bowed low before her stepmother. "Thank you," she said gently. "If you hadn't cast me out, I would have never found my true path." The crowd erupted in cheers. That day, Abeni was crowned Princess of Uzoma. Her clay pots, once sold quietly in the market, were placed around the palace gardens as symbols of strength from humble beginnings. She opened the palace gates to orphan girls and forgotten daughters. She made sure no soft heart would sleep in ashes again, and her name, whispered once by the river, became a song sung by the nation. Years passed, and the story of Abeni and the cursed prince became more than just a tale. It became a legend passed from lips to drums, from elders to children under starlit skies. The village that once turned its back on her now greeted her with reverence. Girls whispered her name like a prayer. Boys carved her image into wooden tokens for protection. And the river, once her only witness, flowed proudly beside her new home, its waters calm and golden in the morning sun. But Abeni never forgot where she came from. She visited her old compound often, not to boast, but to help. She built wells for those who once ignored her. She sent food to homes that had once laughed at her torn clothes. And she never allowed bitterness to live in her chest, not even toward Mama Joka. Mama Joka, stripped of her pride and position, lived in silence. Her daughter Ifunanya had married a traveling trader, far from the palace life she once believed she deserved. And though her voice once rang loudly through the market, now it was quiet. The villagers no longer listened when she spoke. One morning, as the sun broke through the palm trees, Mama Joka came to the palace gates. She stood trembling, empty-handed, face thin with age and guilt. She expected guards to turn her away, but Abeni herself stepped forward. She offered her stepmother a seat in the shade, cool water in a calabash, and words that held no resentment, only peace. "I don't serve you this water because you were kind to me," Abeni said softly, "but because kindness was all I had, and I refused to lose it." Mama Joka wept, not because of shame, but because of something deeper. She had tried to break Abeni's spirit, but it was Abeni's spirit that had saved them all. In time, the palace flourished under Abeni's heart. She and Prince Okechukwu ruled with gentleness, not grandeur. They walked among farmers, sat with widows, and listened to children's dreams as if each one were royal. The prince never again limped, but he never forgot what it felt like to be invisible, and that memory became his strength. Together, they turned their pain into power, and so their story was told again and again, not as a tragedy, but as a testament that even when the world tries to bury you, kindness can be your shovel, that even when you're cast aside, grace can make you rise.